is just has such an enormous impact on the total Bolton budget that, constraining all the other line items in our budget really is not going to get us there in terms of what we need to do. It's most important that we try to maintain the education budget increases to within some reasonable limit. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
Okay. Don has had his hand up for a while, so go ahead.
Thank you, Bob. No, and I agree with you, Bob. The challenge that we all have with this is once we throw all these numbers into a big bucket, it's got to come out to 2.5%, or we go to the voters and say, we need more money. So if we have health insurance that goes up 8-10%, truly, I would expect you to have the same thing. What we have to do is to offset that somewhere by cutting the budget somewhere else. So, and I'm going to use just some really round numbers here. So if we say to the school, hey, you can do 3%, we've got to come in at under 2.5% so that the combined, we're all at 2.5%. Again, unless we want to go for an override. So we're all in this together. We understand there's all kinds of things we have to offset and take care of, and try to address. We're not, yes, you're a district, but Stowe and Lancaster are held to the same 2.5% that we are and you are. So somehow we all got to come together on this. And, I mean, one of the things I'm seeing that I'd love to see used to help with this issue is you guys have got a rather significant excess and deficiency, or what I would call the unspent money that you've got from prior years. You're up to about $2.5 million, which is almost double what it was in 2022. So if you put back the money, the excess funds that you didn't spend from prior years, that would help alleviate the situation and get us all to the 2.5%.
Okay, thanks, Don. Craig, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Some are already been taken care of. So have the other two towns
come up with a number of their own, or does the school committee just think they have carte blanche for the other two towns? It certainly seemed like there were no numbers from the other towns, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Nothing was presented in the Tri-Town meeting. I think I heard Lancaster saying, sort of 2.5% was their number, but I think that was just prop 2.5. And I think I heard Stowe say they don't care what the number is.
We're all held to 2.5%. That's the law. I wish we could get around it, but whether Stowe, I don't know, they pull something out of their back pocket, Lord love them, but we're all held to the 2.5.
Well, it was clear that Stowe was not very concerned.
Right.
Agreed.
I'm only one member of
A town community, but I cannot imagine that the town would approve a 2.5 override for the second year in a row for what is essentially an ongoing budget problem, not a one-time deal.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's most of my comment.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Any other comments or questions or discussion?
I just want to make the members present aware that the school committee is having their budget workshop tomorrow night. And so that we will be presented with the I think, the first pass at the operating costs at our meeting tomorrow night. And then there is a budget hearing that is open to all members of the public. Anybody can join the Zoom link. That's going to be on, Matt and Robin, could you guys correct me if I'm wrong? I think it's March 6th. And I would encourage, that has typically had very, very low attendance. And I'm hoping that by getting the word out tonight in this forum, that maybe we can get some more interested people to attend and ask questions there.
Amy, it looks like that, according to the budget book, it looks like that meeting's March 5th.
Okay, thank you. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I trust you.
I'm sorry, that may be, yeah, it may be March 6th. That I may be looking at last year's.
It's usually on a Wednesday, the first Wednesday in March. It's held remotely so that people can join via Zoom. And it really is an opportunity for anybody to ask a question on the school district's budget before the school committee takes a vote.
I did have one comment, which is while we're talking about the budget for fiscal 27, I think the exercise that we're going through is more long-term than that. I don't think this is going to be the only year that we're going to be having this conversation about how much of an increase Bolton can sustain. You know, in order to not have to go back to the voters and ask for an override, I think we need to be committed to having discussions on an ongoing basis every year to make sure that we're on track to budget within what we expect to raise. So I just wanted to point out it's not just a this year discussion from my perspective. Or my dogs, apparently.
Good. Okay, great. Well, Amy, Robin, Matt, thanks very much for joining. I think this is a great discussion, and I hope we can keep the communication open. If you are interested in any follow-up as you're going through your budgeting exercise, we're happy to help. Just feel free to reach out to anyone on advisory.
Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate that.
Okay, great. So let's see. Next on our agenda is reviewing the Council on Aging budget, although we're a few minutes ahead of schedule, and I don't know that anyone has joined from the Council on Aging.
There's a strange gap in our agenda from 7 to 7:15.
15, we have nothing listed.
Oh, that would explain it. Okay.
Greg, your microphone's coming in and out a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, well, maybe we can just jump ahead. Marie, do you want to move to the capital items discussion? Marie, if you're talking, you're muted.
Asking to share screen.
Okay.
Oh. Still in host has disabled it.
Oh, okay. If I could give you that power, I would.
I will take the host back and
Thanks, Jenna. You've exceeded my technical capabilities.
The suspense for capital items.
this might take a second. It's not letting me take back the host.
Maria, drum roll, please.
Bob, if you go down to share, do you have options on the share button?
Let me see.
Or if
Oh,
folks,
wait, I do. Okay.
ah,
Does that work?
like the Wizard of Oz, where you have the ability. Yeah. Yes. Let me go to the very end of this because the other stuff and make it much, much bigger if I can, because that is way too small. What I've been working on is trying to assess the actual numbers. I have estimates for most everything submitted on the town side. For items that as a first pass are marked in green, so that is the 2 trucks for the DPW. Given everything, I am inclined to recommend moving ahead. On Thursday morning, Ninotchka, Michelle, and I are speaking with our financial advisor to figure out what the optimal strategy is for moving ahead. There's only one thing on this that's red. If you notice, it's the fire, the SCBA. Per the fire chief, those are absolutely necessary next year. The breathing apparatus were all purchased in effect in one block, which means that they all sort of time out in one block. So if there's some, waffling of, do we catch up on capital this year and have next year as a light year? I just want to sort of put a bookmark that 150 for the self-contained is absolutely imperative. For the items which are yellow, this item, as pointed out, does not meet the capital threshold, but I was seeing small equipment as something to advance and go forward. The items which are mauve are securing additional estimates. As Randy had mentioned during our tour, the Houghton needs to be refreshed, and he was expecting, he's been out due to an excused absence, but was expecting an estimate back, ideally, which would also be bundled with the DPW painting, because I thought, they'd only have to mobilize once.
Right.
He's also following up with Mark Ayotte regarding his earlier estimate for the camera, and a volunteer in town is exploring different options for transfer station Wi-Fi, either going with Comcast or looking at another vendor. So those are in the mix. We're seeking more estimates. The water supply is that looming thing that was brought up also as potentially a need for a special town meeting. We are working on the temporary disinfection. The contractor will be mobilizing around the beginning of February. Following that, we believe that we have some time, but it's not yet known, before moving to the permanent disinfection solution. This $100,000 for design is exclusively a guesstimate number, and maybe a worst case guesstimate number, because we're not sure what would be required. Would we be required to have a system that could fit within the footprint of the public safety building? Would we be required to build something, at both dual locations, which doesn't seem very economical? And also, when are we required to show forward progress? Bowers Brook Erosion Control has 2 grant applications due to the wondrous activities of the conservation agent to secure offset funding. And as such, should her applications be successful, we would be required only to meet a match of what she calculated was $16,000. So it's not forgotten. It would be sort of, I guess, in a mauve category. And the electronic signboard, I would advocate as part of the equipment, the smaller equipment catch-all above. For the schools, I don't know if folks have had an opportunity to go through the NRSD capital submissions and to look through some of the items. I'm carrying 2 things that aren't in the from NRSD submissions. Both of them were brought up by Rob Frieswick to Randy, then to me. One of them being the permanent disinfection solution for Florence Sawyer with an all-in cost of $210,000. The schools didn't raise it. I do view, though, it's a quandary. I would prioritize it. It hasn't appeared. It's one of my questions if you saw my running list of questions in the shared drive for Ross, the school business manager. And then the other things for doors and grouping both for the doors and being mindful of I guess it's 3.5 million for Sawyer for a roof that will be happening shortly. I do know that the accelerated repair program is not accelerated. It's very slow and it has very restricted moments to submit a statement of interest. The next opportunity is January of 2027. If we were accepted, though, into that, there is also a MSBA reimbursement of approximately 30%. That accelerated repair would encompass roofs, it would encompass doors. It's more focused on building envelope as well as windows. So that is one of my questions for the school in terms of how do we stage this as, the doors, I can see their point and I appreciated the walkthrough. But if there's an opportunity to group those and leverage MSBA reimbursement, I would want to take that. For flooring, that is a large school capital request that I am inclined to support the request for flooring, but I also have questions regarding the cost differential between LVT and VCT. I completely understand that VCT requires more operating expense, but it's also less expensive upfront. So we're walking a line there. We're not, from the town side, not as concerned about operating expense. The school is obviously and rightly concerned about operations. And then for other items, I'd wondered if advisory had questions having gone through that school list. For the switches, none of the other towns in the district had opted to push that request forward last year. I'm not sure if the number that we're seeing is net of reimbursement that schools can get, E-rate reimbursement, or if this is already reflecting that. I'm also sort of struggling with, and I understand, but presumably the town was asked 10 years ago, perhaps 12 years ago, as a capital request to purchase all of the switches. Because I'm not sure. And ditto, the scoreboard. I'm happy to replace things. I'm trying to husband money. So
can I just make a quick comment only because I was there with the walkthrough with you?
That'd be awesome.
The one thing that I think stood out to me, it was the network switches, because it did seem like they were very outdated, and because they are outdated and the head of IT is trying to limp along with what we have, it is it's risky because if the network goes down, we are completely offline. And then B, it's not allowing us to make the necessary updates that we need to, because I don't know if it's, because it's not a current version, or because it's, it takes too much. I don't even know what the technical words would be, but it sounded like they had said, we're not up to date with improvements to our network because we can't manage them. But I think to me, the real threat was, if our network goes down, we're pretty much dead in the water on the school system, right? Because the kids' Chromebooks aren't working, communications are not working. So that was alarming to me, I think, out of all the asks. So just throwing in my 2 cents there.
So would it be fair to say then, if I'm sort of staggering to increase the network switches in a prioritization list above flooring. The gym floor seems like a straightforward thing, and scoreboard straightforward, but in terms of the Emerson flooring, from what we saw during the walkthrough, the floor was in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree that it's in rough shape. I just think of the repercussions of bad flooring and then the repercussions of coming offline and not being able to communicate and educate daily for the student. Like that goes lower on my list. I think the doors and the switches were my number one, but I can see your thoughts in trying to lump the doors in with the bigger ask if we can get funding for that. But I didn't, yes, they're in bad shape. Yes, it would be good to have better flooring, but it seems like they're making do with buying, area rugs and stuff like that to compensate. So the
Okay.
technology piece, especially in the world we live in, seems a high priority.
All right, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I agree with Robin. From attending that walkthrough, it seemed like network switches were a very high one and everything else came after, because it sounded like if they do go down, you'd almost have to shut school down, send kids home. So
Well, I'll be the devil's advocate a little bit here. So, I in my mind sort of had some of the safety things prioritized above other things. So I think the doors is sort of absolutely, because that would be like a safety thing. The floors I sort of had lumped in a safety category because they looked really funky in some cases, and maybe that's not good for kids. To me, the network switches, they're obviously important, but they don't, like, network switches don't all fail at once. Like you get a failure here and a failure there, and ideally it's nice to replace everything in one shot. But I sort of question like the imminent need, and is this a crisis that has to be funded this year, or is this something that can be funded in increments over the next 3 years, for example? And so anyway.
I think it was presented to us more so as it's an overhaul of the complete network. It's a one shot. And the other thing that I agree with you, Bob, is with the flooring and with the carpeting, is I had said, is there mold? Is there mildew? Like what's going on? Like how bad is it? And they did a lot of work at Floor and Sawyer when they had the water issue a few years back, and obviously that piece was taken care of. But they are testing on a regular basis for pollutants in the air that would impact the students, like mold and mildew, and they are coming back obviously with safe levels. So I don't think it's more it's not a health concern, it's more these things are just super tired and worn out, and instead of buying throw rugs every year to cover the gross rugs, we just get new rugs or we just replace it with the flooring. So
Yeah. I mean, I certainly agree with the need for all of them. I think it's just a question of prioritization. So, Marie, I know you've already been working on this a little bit, but sort of having a global picture of like, okay, here's the free cash we have to work with this year, and how much we want to retain, how much we should put in our capital stabilization fund, how much our stabilization fund might need, if any, and then what's available to put towards capital expenses. And you may already have numbers in mind, but I think that would be very helpful for us in terms of thinking about how many of these could we actually accommodate.
I have some numbers in mind. I guess the thing that I'll have a clearer picture of is after speaking with our bonding entity, whose name I'm now spacing on, but Natasha can help me out here on Thursday morning. David, thank you. Figuring out, here's some items that we're interested in advancing. Here's what our entire municipal debt picture looks like, though. How can we phase this with minimal to no impact on the taxpayer and keep all of our debt, our municipal debt, smooth? So what would be most helpful for advisory? Because what would be helpful from my perspective, looking at that, I think February 20th is the deadline for warrant articles, is getting some clarity regarding, how is advisory interested in apportioning the free cash as per their policies, and how are they willing to fund capital stabilization going forward? I have a little draft document. I don't know if that would be helpful, deferring to you, Bob.
If you have something now to discuss, sure, we'd be happy to do that. If you're not ready to discuss it tonight, we could defer it.
I've got it ready, and I can even share.
Okay.
And I have this sharing bar. My interest is in finding out, per advisory's policies, we should be moving our excess free cash from the one-time auction of the town properties and the building receipts, as well as the staffing shortage at the police department, because it has exceeded 5% of the operating budget, there should be an amount that is transferred just off the top to keep in line with our policies to stabilization and or capital stabilization. My read is that as the advisory policy states, free cash greater than 5% of the operating budget. I'm just not sure if that's our free cash certification was from fiscal 25. So it's compared to the fiscal 25 operating budget or the fiscal 26.
I would say 25.
Going with that, then the second question is, per advisory's goal, the interest is to keep stabilization at 3 to 5% per their policy. I just calculated the stabilization pre-transfer, and this is Marie, so not exact. It's not interest. It's just what the stabilization account had been, plus what we filled back up with at town meeting. I have noted in looking at the DOR-DLS that our percentage of stabilization funds as compared to our operating budget has been in a decline for years. If we were interested in raising our stabilization to 5% of the fiscal 25 operating budget, that would mean transferring 427 to our general stabilization. And then given that 724 would be transferring at minimum to capital stabilization 296. I know this is like a lot of numbers, and it's late in the day.
This is a lot of numbers.
I will share all of this with the committee, something to take back and mull. I'm trying to walk a path so that's in accord with advisory's policies, but that also, provides seed money to capital stabilization that was formed at the last town meeting. I'm also very mindful that at baseline, we are committed to carrying forward at least $450,000 in our free cash. The other question was perhaps at the next advisory meeting, there could be a vote with either up or down for stabilization funding sources and whether to apply meals and excise to capital stabilization. So.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. The meals and excise things, that would be sort of a permanent until we decided to change the policy, but like a permanent move that we would.
I think
do
you
that
get
every
2
year.
years. So like a 3-year thing. I'm looking, yeah, my phone a friend. Yeah.
Okay. And then you're suggesting we move some of the free cash into capital stabilization just because we have to move some of it and it will kind of jumpstart the capital stabilization fund.
Just a jump start. Yeah.
Okay. Jenny, can you remind me when on our schedule we're planning to vote on capital items? I don't have my in front of me.
I could pull up the calendar. Give me just a sec.
Okay. So, Marie, what would be most helpful to you going forward? Like, we could certainly, we'll add an agenda item to one of our next meetings about voting on maybe the moving of some of these large, but in terms of all those capital items,
I will have a funding and staggered approach. Probably not the next meeting, but the advisory meeting following that.
Okay.
And I will have Randy's revised and updated numbers. What would be terrific would be if advisory members who've gone through the district's capital requests have questions like, this wasn't clear to me. If you could email those directly to me, because I as mentioned before, I don't want to pepper, Ross with questions. I want to send him, here are all of our questions. And ideally to get that out like before Thursday.
Okay. Okay. Jenny, any luck on the calendar?
Sorry, having multiple windows on a little laptop is hard. February 10th is when you're scheduled to have a discussion with Marie regarding FY26 capital recommendations. So I assume that's the same night you'd want to vote on them. I don't see an item after that date for approval of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think the exercise for advisory in the next week or two, if anyone has questions on any of the capital items, to get those to Marie. The school ones should go first because you're trying to get that set out the door. And then we should be prepared sort of internally to have maybe an internal prioritization and a healthy discussion so that on February 10th, we can be ready, the advisory committee can be ready to vote on our recommendations.
Just one other note
okay.
is March 3rd is when the school is coming in, and there is an item to discuss their capital requests at that meeting. So I don't know if that complicates things or if you want to have your recommendation ready before they come in for their presentation of capital.
Marie,
did you say that we have to have everything wrapped up by the 20th of February?
No, I'd say to have warrant articles to have all of your warrant articles to hold by the 20th placeholders.
That'll help.
Okay. All right. Well, I think February 10th is still a good target. If we need to make any modifications after that, we can. I feel like we have enough information on the school requests now that we can at least have a discussion about those. Okay, so between now and February 10th, we'll throw into item on for healthy discussion about some of these capital items. Just internally, we can toss them around. Does that sound reasonable?
Sorry, Bob, can I ask like a procedural question?
Yes,
Is healthy
yes.
discussion when we might eliminate some of those? Like, couldn't we say, I don't think anyone here is going to vote for the pickleball courts to move forward? Like, are there already items that we know as a group Marie could just sort of take off of her list to make that list smaller, based on our previous discussions? Just wondering sort of like procedurally how that works.
Yeah, I think we would certainly be open to, Marie, if you have suggestions for things that just.
I have my own suggestions of alternate funding sources. Yeah.
Good. Either alternate funding or just push it down the road, not important for this year. Yeah, narrowing the list. Okay. Good. All right. Anything else on capital items? The discussion continues. Okay. So now we'll hit Council on Aging. So I see we have Lisa Andy here, and thanks for joining us and thanks for your patience.
Sure.
Okay. So I will share the budget spreadsheet. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Lisa, are you going to walk us through this? It looks like there's
Sure.
not
Yep.
too much of a change.
No, not too much of a change. Salary and wages, it's I'm at a step 10, so mine does not change at all. My colleague Heather Goodsell just gets a step increase. Purchase of services is level funded. The software support, there's a small increase there because there may be a small increase. The building lease, there was an increase there. I'm expecting a new lease, I would say this summer for October 2026. And we typically see a $20 to $25 increase. I added a little bit more this year only because we have the 16 parking spaces, and the Bolton Country Manor management team, RCAP Solutions, they are spearheading the plowing and maintenance of those spaces. They have not told me, unequivocally that there'd be an increase in the rent, but I just wanted to prepare for that just in case there would be. Telephone, there could be a small increase, cable as well. There always is in both. And then in supplies, so our supplies really, we've seen a big increase in those just because that's driven mostly by food for the senior center. So because food costs are up, that's why the supply numbers are up as well. We really do, try to do as many luncheon and food programs as possible for seniors in town. And we use Market Basket almost exclusively because it's the most cost effective. We have an account with them. And it just all the way around makes the most sense. So that's what drove that increase.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody on advisory have any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the Council on Aging budget for $133,163?
$1,163.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Don.
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Hannah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Great. Well,
Okay, easy
Well,
enough.
thank you.
Great. Andy and Lisa, thank you very much.
thank you. Have a great night.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you,
you
you
too.
too.
Thanks.
Okay, last agenda item, back to Marie. You had tossed out some recommendations on around COLA.
Yes. Last year, and I'm not sure exactly the protocol for this, but wanted to bring this recommendation to advisory and then presumably I bring it to the select board. Last year, looking back at the CPI, it increased 2.9%, but I recommended a 0% COLA for fiscal 26. The police contract is not yet settled, but the other two collective bargaining agreements were settled at 0% for fiscal 26, as was the town's non-union. Even though it was a tricky time, I just wanted to assure some forward movement in the system. Everyone who was eligible to advance a step last year advanced a step. Employees who were at step 10 last year received a 3% wage adjustment. Both advisory and select board had approved that approach. This year, and I just sort of looked back and asked Jenny, when was the last 0% COLA? We couldn't find when. I'm mindful that we're remaining in a challenging cost environment as inflation continues, and that there are competitive pressures in the municipal labor market, as well as turnover among staff. My proposal for advisory is twofold. One is a 2% COLA for the town non-union positions on the comp and classification schedule and for non-seasonal hourly employees. So I'm asking for a 2% COLA. And the second is codifying then that wage adjustment last year that the step 10 individuals received as a step 11. So that our schedule is not getting completely off kilter, but to acknowledge the step movement is not constituting by itself a cost of living adjustment. And I'm trying not to ignore our fiscal constraints, but also balancing the operational reality that if our workforce is experiencing wage stagnation, it's going to be harder to retain them. If advisory is interested, the budgetary impact on fiscal 27 of the 2% COLA and codifying step 11 for those positions of last year would be $31,116.
Marie, that wage increase last year at 3%, was that just for folks at step 10?
Correct.
How does the COLA work? Does it bump the entire pay matrix grades and steps up by a percentage and that stays in place going forward, or is it a one-time?
No, it is an overlay on the comp and classification plan. So everything is bumped up.
Okay. Is everyone on advisory familiar with this grade and step thing table that we have?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Marie, do you have your matrix? I think.
I do not have my comp and class matrix with me at this moment.
Okay. That's so just a brief explanation. The town employees are in different grades, 1 through 8.
Yep.
Depending on your role, and you get hired as a grade. Well, I don't know if you always get hired as a step 1. Is that true? No. Okay. So within a grade, let's say an employee is a grade 5, you can be, if you're hired as a step 1, every year you would advance a step up till step 10. And then you're kind of maxed out. So I suppose you could be hired as a grade 5, step 5, and then after 5 years, you'd be maxed out. And then once you're a step 10, I think the only way you get wage increases are through these COLA increases.
Through a COLA, or should you have gone through the step 1 through step 10 eligibility for longevity bonuses.
Oh, you're right.
And so is it true that in the years we have a COLA increase, when an employee gets a step increase, they get a bump because they've advanced in step, and then there's another bump because of the COLA.
Step in COLA. So they step into a step that had already been adjusted by a COLA.
Right. Okay. All right. So sounds like you're asking for our input on 2 things. One is we had that one-time 3% bump up last year for those in step 10, and we should just capture that as a step 11 permanently, so that going forward when we have a COLA increase, that they're in the right step, in the right bucket. Okay. All right. So does anyone on advisory have questions on that? on sort of the capturing that one-time bump up as a permanent step 11. If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve the,
Codifying, yeah.
yeah, there are pay guidelines as a step 11?
New guidelines as a step 11.
Second that.
Roll call, Craig,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
I
Okay.
actually have a question if I could.
Sure.
So if there were a category or a step level of employee that there was no one at the 10th step, sorry, if there was a grade level without someone at the 10th step, would there still be an 11th step added to that grade level?
Yes.
Okay.
My intention in asking for this would be yes.
Yep.
Wait, now
Okay.
I'm confused.
So let's say step 4, just picking out of a hat, there were no employees last year in step 4 at level 10. I just wanted to be clear based on the wording of that vote that in that situation, if there was no one that advanced to that extra 3%, that 11th step would still be generated.
So I'm
So
making
that
a
the-
whole separate step 11 column.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was my understanding too, that we just created a step 11. That
It
everybody.
reminds me of Spinal Tap.
Turn it up. Was it 11 or 12 they turned it up?
Okay, all right, and then you were recommending a COLA increase for the entire pay scale, all grades and steps of, sorry, what was the percentage?
It'd be a 2% COLA.
2%. And so last year there was no COLA.
0%. I have a comparable thing to show if that helps.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering if 2% is sufficient. So we're making up for 2 years, really. Inflation's been running around 3%.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bob. I'd love to see more. I'm just a little scared of all the numbers I've been seeing the past few weeks.
Yeah.
What is 0.5% or 1% cost the town across? I don't know if Nanachka has that number or if Marie has that number. I'm just curious.
My 2% COLA was 31,116. Applying it to non-seasonal hourly and all the positions on comp and class.
So like 7,500 for each 0.5%. Am I understanding that right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And that 31,000, that includes the new 11 as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
So there's about 10 employees that are at step 10.
So if you went to 3%, that would be roughly 45,000, if my math is
Sure.
correct.
Approximate.
Any thoughts, other thoughts from advisory?
45, just to repeat, 45 sounds better. Like I say, I don't know what all these numbers are going to come in at the end of the day.
If we look back at our future forecasting model, that
Yes.
that low interest model that we had, that we said we wanted to stick to, actually had a 3% increase in salary and wages. Now we have to be a little bit careful because as, you know, folks advance in step, that's going to show up as a percentage increase in the total salary and wages line. And then if we add a COLA on top of that, that's going to make it even that much higher. What about a 2.5% increase?
I think the 3% or the 2.5 would be reasonable, Bob. Especially if we're catching up for 2 years.
Yeah.
That seems very fair to say the 3% is actually 2 years. That's only the 1.5% each year.
Right, well, if anyone's interested, I'd entertain a motion for a COLA increase of whatever someone would like to suggest.
Well, increase of 3%.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, Craig,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. 3%.
Just for reference, the Social Security, I believe, was 2.8. The COLA for Social Security was 2.8.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels reasonable given the environmental conditions these days, or the economical conditions these days.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, if I could just chime in, you know, my thought is that there are also costs to the town that are not financial if we can't retain the talent that we have. So while, yes, we have to be very sensitive to the dollars and cents, I think we also have to look at the big picture of, you know, retaining the talented people that we do have.
yeah, absolutely.
They're all good employees. They deserve it. It's just the where we're being hemmed in by the voters makes it more challenging. You're absolutely right.
Okay, we've come to the end of our agenda. Does anyone else have anything that we should discuss? We're planning on a meeting again next week, our typical Tuesday Zoom meeting. I'll send out an email. If no one has anything, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, great, thanks.